Ladies and gentlemen, we're already in session because that's non-public. Please rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is reorganization of the board. I have done my 2 years. I'm taking time off. With that said, I will take a nomination for chair of the board.
I make a motion that we approve Jack Widmer as the chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a chair and I have a motion and a second for Jack. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I now will accept a, oh, no, you can do it now.
Well, okay, but before we take nominations for vice chair, Dr. Jim, thank you for 2 years of good, wonderful leadership, really. It's tough. A lot of things go on during the board meetings, and I really appreciate your 2 years leading us.
Thank you, Jack.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I will accept nominations for vice chair at this point.
I'll make a motion for Wendy Fenderson.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Wendy be vice chair. Any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you. Wendy, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Great. So that was simple. All right, agenda review. Anything to add?
I do. I have 2 things to add. You'll find that you have the dual enrollment policy, IHCD, as a first read, and the homework policy, IKB, as a first read.
Okay.
You forgot.
Why? Oh, well, I know. I'll go back.
Okay, go back and get it.
The assignments to board chair committees. Please get your your ideas to me before the next board meeting. I will still serve on human resources and finance just because. So we'll have enough people on those boards. But whatever your requirements are, your needs are, let me know, and we'll make sure that you get on the committees that you want to get onto. Thank you. Acceptance of the minutes of the March 12th board meeting.
Make a motion to approve the March 12th minutes.
Good. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, corrections, omissions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of March 12th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions? Thank you. Okay, public input is a time that you can approach the board and ask the board some questions if you have any. Limit to 15 minutes. So any questions at this point? There'll be public input at the end of the meeting as well. Okay, hearing none. Abby, you're up.
So, well, like usual, there's a ton of stuff going on at school. First of all, we had the Kingswood Quiz Bowl team, which you might remember a couple years ago won the state championship. They're in the state finals again in Concord, and that's going to be April 8th. They're among the top 8 teams in the state. We're in the midst of our Pennies for Patients drive. I mentioned last month the Student Council runs this. The money goes towards the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. The FBLA club last Thursday and Friday went to Manchester for their state meet. They did incredibly. 21 students went, and 16 of them placed in the top 3 for the event they were in. The Youth and Government Club is headed to Concord this Friday and Saturday for our model legislature where we debate bills, write bills. Students from Kingswood ran for governor. We're elected into the Senate, our arena's clerks, and our lobbyists, so we're all active in that. On March 17th, which was the day after the last meeting, a large number of the middle and high school population walked out for the National School Walkout, and this was a student-led organization led by Grace Trites and Burke Rule, and it was very powerful. A ton of people from the school walked out and were very respectful in honoring the 17 victims of the Florida school shooting. Last week, there was a whole school assembly featuring the former NH Supreme Court Justice John Broderick, and he spoke to the school about changing the stigma about mental health, mental illness, and the prevalence of it in teenagers, and that was really moving for especially our school community. 4 Kingswood students will be going down to DC for the close-up program. 4 went last year, 4 are going this year for the first-hand look at the American political system. And then spring sports are starting. Nothing much has happened with that yet. We're waiting to get on the fields, starting this week, hopefully. And midterms are this week. So 3/4 of the way done.
Appreciate you. Okay, Superintendent.
Okay, well, it's always great to be here in Tuftonboro, and thank you for setting everything up for us, Andrea. And I see that we have some students, which is always, I think, all of our favorite part of the meeting is to see the students. So, and you're not going to be on just one camera tonight, students. We've got 2 cameras rolling, so.
Wow, thank you, Mrs. Baker. So welcome, everyone. So happy that you're all here tonight. At TCS, we set high academic standards where students are expected to collaborate, work in teams, and be productive members within the classroom. However, in order for these things to be successful, students are taught elements of character education. Character education at TCS involves a monthly theme where grade levels present at our all-school meeting, which we just had this past Friday. Some themes include perspective taking, conflict resolution, mindfulness, and social awareness. These themes are used throughout the school and reinforced in all of our classrooms. So tonight, some of our 1st and 4th graders will present their character education theme, which is friendship. So I hope that you enjoy. We have Mrs. Mary Knudsen and Miss Kim Reed, our 1st and 4th grade teachers.
Okay, guys ready? Yeah, you probably want to turn your chairs around so that you can see.
So school board members, they are going to ask you to participate, so.
You're going to be on the page. Can I have the children are going to introduce themselves first, starting down there with Sam.
I'm Sam from 1st grade. I'm Izzy from 4th grade.
I'm Colby from 4th grade.
I'm Everett from 4th grade. I'm Charlotte from 4th grade. I'm Gabby from 1st grade.
I'm Cooper from 4th grade.
I'm Finn from 1st. Friendship is when you can count on someone. Friendship is also when you can talk or play with someone when you are sad, and you can help each other when you are down. And that is friendship. Encouragement is telling someone you can do it.
An example of encouragement is telling someone I believe in you.
And that is encouragement. Teamwork is being nice to each other,
Working hard, saying kind words, being a good sport, helping each other, and being cooperative.
and being a good friend. That's teamwork.
Pop chart strategies are a way to calm down, get energized, or get back into the green zone.
Pop chart strategies can be helpful when you are disappointed, frustrated, or bothered. In a few moments, you will be asked questions about this category and a few others. Good luck. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. Tonight we are going to play Jeopardy! And I am going to be hosting it. My name is Cooper McCourt. So, now I'm required to divide you into 2 teams. So pretend that projector's a line. If you're on that side of the line, then you're team 2. If you're on that side of the line, you're team 1. So, remember, the higher the number, the harder the question. So, team 1, pick your category. Oh, yeah, and you raise your hand. And the first team, 2,100 points will win. We need people to raise their hand. Yeah, the only person with their hand.
You told me to do it. What category? Oh, pick a category.
Encouragement seems fitting.
No, miscellaneous. Go generic. Miscellaneous for 200.
Okay, miscellaneous for 200. What is an example of bucket filling?
Can anyone on the team answer?
Yeah, anyone on the team can answer, or you assume they do.
It would be if you do something nice for someone, it helps fill their bucket to make their day better.
Bucket filling is anything that you do to make someone else happy. You are correct. Team 2. Anyone with hands up? You.
Teamwork.
Teamwork for how much?
300.
Teamwork for 300.
Why is it sometimes hard to be on a team?
Sometimes some team members want to do it all by themselves.
Sometimes some team members want to do it all by themselves.
They don't want to participate.
It can be hard if you have teammates who aren't listening to your ideas or not taking turns. Sometimes one person wants to be the boss of one person and does not want to contribute. That's great. Team 1.
Yeah. We'll do friends for 400.
Friends for 400. When could you tell on someone?
When they're doing something that's not safe.
When they're doing something that's not safe. When they are hurting or could hurt themselves, someone else, or property. Good job. Team 2.
We'll do encouragement for 300.
Encouragement for 300. Give an example of some encouraging words you could say to someone.
You can do it. Good job.
You can do it. Great job. Well done. All these are encouraging words, and there are many more examples.
We have teamwork for 500.
What does collaboration mean?
It means working together.
It means working together. To work together by using everyone's ideas, talents, and help. Great job. Team 2.
Friends for 500.
Friends for 500. Demonstrate an I feel statement for if your friends don't let you play with them at recess.
I feel sad when you don't let me go on the swings with you.
I feel sad when you don't let me go on the swings with you. I feel excluded when you do not let me play with you because you are my friend, so I would like to play with you, please. Great job. Team 1.
Yeah, encouragement for 500.
Encouragement 500.
When could encouragement be a bad thing?
If you're encouraging somebody to do something that's wrong or unsafe.
When someone is encouraging you to do something dangerous, unsafe, or risky. Team 2.
Okay, pop chart strategy, 500.
What are the benefits of brain massage?
People on your team can help.
People on my team, you know,
Brain massage helps you relax.
Relax.
Yeah.
Brain massage helps you relax. Well, let's see if that's right. It can clear your head and help you think better in school. I think that's correct. Team 1, pick the thing.
Ernie,
Miscellaneous for 500.
Miscellaneous for 500.
You are going to know.
How many students are in Tuftonboro Central School? It has to be exact. No estimate.
119.
audience?
We have a winner.
Team 1.
Team 1 has won TCS Jeopardy. Thank you for coming. This is a friendly competition. There's no winners or losers. It's just to learn about these 4 categories that we made up. And then a few random facts. You only learn 2 of those random facts because not a lot of people pick miscellaneous. Stop pitching. So enjoy your night, and I guess we're finished.
Thank encouraging words that should have been on that side of the table.
It was actually everybody in the there was like at least 20.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're going to move it over.
Yeah, it looked like a lot.
Yeah, no. It was completely, yeah.
I'm so glad I knew that.
Well, you know, I was gonna say 170.
No, it was,
So-
it was,
I was thinking
right,
close.
yeah.
And we're all, honestly, I don't know. Well, that's what but just for some reason.
That was, yeah.
But it does, numbers change in a large number every day.
Oh, yeah. You literally can have 1 month, plus or minus 1 every
Okay, are we almost ready? Okay, all right.
literally can't behind us.
What, I was gonna say to you, well, maybe a couple of minutes, you wanna go on to like election results or something like that, to something that's not gonna take too long? Okay. All right, we're gonna skip down a couple while Katie's setting up the camera. Let's do D, the election results. I think that's easy.
Sure. And I'm not sure if you all have a copy of this in your packet.
I don't think so.
But,
Well, wait a minute, yeah, we do.
Okay, I'll just go through each article and just give the totals. Let's see. Okay, Article 2 is the support staff agreement, and that passed with a 69.59% yes vote. Article 3, special meeting, that passed with a 69.82% vote. Article 4, the teachers agreement, that passed with a 66.58% vote. The special meeting on Article 4, that was 68.65. The turf field passed at 64.80. The maintenance article, which always gets strong support, was passed at 76.61%. And then the operating budget was 67.78%. There was no one running against our incumbent board members, so Jack Widmer was reelected, Timothy Eldridge was reelected, and Randy Walker was reelected as moderator. So, and Julianne Cardinal, I skipped you, Julianne, sorry. And Julianne Cardinal was also, thank goodness, for a 3-year term. So, and those are the results. It was great to have the strong support that we had from the community. I'm always very grateful that this community supports the schools in the way they do, because we would not be able to do what we do for the children, and it's just so important. So many thanks to the community.
Thank you, Katie. Okay.
Yes, it's the same. Good evening. So I'm here to talk about our assessment results from this past year. And just a little bit of information, if you haven't heard already, last year was the last year of the Smarter Balanced Assessment Administration. So New Hampshire is no longer part of the consortium, and so we are taking a new test this year for grades 3 through 8 for math and ELA. It's called the New Hampshire State Assessment System, which you may hear called NHSAS. And then for science, we are no longer taking the science kneecap assessment. Grades 5, 8, and 11 will take the new state science assessment, which is actually going to be done through the New Hampshire State Assessment System platform. So the results that you see tonight are actually from last spring, and they are the last Smarter Balanced results that you will see. Briefly, Smarter Balance included math and ELA. It included a computer adaptive component for each subject area as well as a performance task. The new assessment is actually getting rid of the performance tasks and the classroom activities, but it will still include the computer adaptive component. So, some changes in the works. Just when we thought we got one test down, they're going to change it up on us. Here, and I'm sorry if the coloring is a little bit off, but there are approximately 12 states left in the Smarter Balance Consortium. Here is a smattering of other states who take the Smarter Balance assessment and how New Hampshire compares. Within New England, only Vermont and Connecticut take the Smarter Balance assessment, and we, as a state of New Hampshire, have consistently scored higher than both of those New England states. You can see there are some other states listed of the remaining 12. Oregon, California, Delaware. We have consistently scored as a state higher than those states as well. The one exception is Washington State. Washington State does very well in the Smarter Balance assessment. But all in all, our state is very strong. We have a strong educational system, and that's reflected in these scores. This holds true in math as well. Again, New Hampshire, with the exception of Washington State, we score very high in comparison to other Smarter Balance states. So, it's hard to see, but I wanted to give you just a flavor of some of the test items that our students see when they take these tests. This is a grade, let's see, make sure I have the right grade level. This is a grade 3 ELA problem. So, now this is static. Generally, students taking this on the computer, they're able to scroll down and across. So this is just a screenshot, but the passage on the left-hand side has 6 paragraphs to it, all about wind turbines, and it has 11 questions that go with it. This is question number 4. It has a prompt, but it's pretty intimidating if you're looking at it for the first time, or if you're a little third grader. You can see that the language is intense. The vocabulary that they're using, the graphics, it's a lot of text for students to read through, in addition to manipulating the platform itself. This is a grade 4 example. Again, on the left-hand side, they have some sort of a reading passage. This one was about table tennis, or ping pong, as it's more commonly known. It has 10 paragraphs. At the end, there was a timeline in the form of a chart, and then this had 14 questions associated with it. So again, a lot of manipulation of a screen and of content. And this is a grade 7 example. This is a poetry example. So students were presented with 3 different poems, and they were all actually about the sea. I have the advantage of actually seeing all 3 poems. And then this had 9, or actually 10 different questions that went along with these poems. And these questions range anything from what does this word mean in the context of the poem, to questions that ask students to compare across poems. What might be a major theme, or what is the difference? So there's a lot of, some of those higher level thinking skills required of students. So now that you've had a little flavor of ELA, how did we do as a district? Stay out of your way. These are our district results for ELA for grades 3 through 8. A reminder that grade 11 takes the SAT and grade 10 takes the PSAT, so those results I'll share in a few minutes. So we obviously want the proportion of green or greenish yellow to be greater than that of the purple, as is the cases for grades 4, 5, and 7. And the handout that I shared does have a more detailed breakdown. So there are 4 levels. 2 are depicted here, proficient and not proficient. But you may have students who are proficient and above proficient, as well as students who are below proficient and significantly below proficient. Here is a year-to-year comparison for our district in ELA. And Interestingly, following last year's testing, all but one state, and that was California, using the Smarter Balance assessment, saw a significant decrease in their ELA scores statewide. And that mirrors here where we saw marked decreases at grades 3, 6, 7, and 8. Grades 4 and 5 did increase, however. And two factors that may have contributed to that was they did change, or they made slight adjustments to the scoring formula between 2016 and 17, and they incorporated a larger bank of items or questions that were asked of students. So the test itself had some slight adjustments, which may have contributed to that. Giving you an idea of math and what students may be asked of in math. This is a grade 5 question, I believe. I take that back. This is grade 3. And it has two components. Like many of the questions, they'll be multi-tiered, or they'll ask two different prompts of a larger sort of prompt. And here the student is asked to then take the numbers in that middle column and drag them over to the dotted rectangles. First we need to round it for each individual item and then estimate the total cost. So the content itself doesn't seem overly difficult, but oftentimes it's the manipulation of having to drag each number versus just typing in 200. It's dragging the 2, dragging the 0, dragging the 0, which many of our younger students find time consuming and can be frustrating when they're asked again and again similar types of prompts. This is an example from make sure it's the right one, grade 6. Again, this is providing, that they're having to type these numbers or push on the numbers to create an inequality. And here's grade 8, a geometry question. Again, they're having a graph here. They're given two different tasks, if you will, using the connect line, which I don't think you can see it, no. It's that blue circle or blue oval to the right, so they manipulate the graph, and then they have to drag the variables in the middle to complete the coordinate. So a lot of the manipulation. As usual, our math scores do lag behind our ELA scores. Grade 3, however, we've continued to see them increase. They had nearly 60% of students proficient or above. And from there, you see the numbers typically fall off, which is, you typically see that in the state as well. And a year-to-year comparison, grades 3, 4, and 5 all showed increases from 2016. Grade 4 showed the most considerable increase. This is not surprising, as we had our math coach working exclusively with grade 4 last year. She is continuing her work with grades 5 and 6 this year, and so it will be interesting to see how they do on the new assessment, even though we can't compare it to the old assessment. I'll also be keeping a close eye on grades 7 and 8. Their percentages of students reaching or exceeding proficiency levels stayed the same or decreased, and have done so over the past couple of years, but those grade levels are also lagging behind the state average. So they're not showing any sort of growth, and they're actually decreasing as others in the state have shown growth. So next year we're hoping to bring the math coach in to work with those teachers and looking at potential other revisions to how they're approaching and teaching math to make sure that all students are able to meet the state standards, grade level standards. Grade 10 and 11 continue to take the PSAT and the SAT. Our grade 10 results are nothing, they don't look great, to be honest. Governor Wentworth lags behind both the state in red and the overall results in the United States. Interestingly, however, if you look at how 10th graders did last year, it was almost identical with the grade 10. Those same students, when they became 11th graders, you can see their results here. So those 10th graders who scored below the state and national averages, at least in English reading and writing, ERW, they scored better than both the state and the national average. The math results at either level are also, they are disappointing. I'm hoping that changes as the changes that we're doing at the elementary school work their way up, those students and the teachers will have better approaches or stronger number sense, and that will help our secondary math scores. Give you an idea of cohort trends. So these are cohorts. So you're following a group of students from 3rd grade to 4th grade to 5th grade and seeing how they're doing. You can see the classes below. So you have current 5th graders, 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders and how they did in the past 3 years on the Smarter Balanced Assessment. And you can see that in both cases, the cohort trends are highly erratic. You typically see either a trending up or a trending down, and you're seeing instead ups and downs, peaks and valleys. So it's very hard to make sense of the data. Is it an abnormality? Hard to tell. And given that we won't be taking this test again, it's hard to make sense of this data based on future data. So a little bit of analysis and some thoughts. One of the concerns that was frequently brought up by our teachers and those who are administering these assessments is it was a very long test. The test itself was at least 8 hours, and that didn't include the classroom activity, so you're adding on at least another hour. So when you're thinking of students, they are taking 8, 9+ hours to test, and that's a lot of time. It's a lot of time away from instruction, and it's a lot of time to be sitting down and just staring at a screen trying to work things out. It's an endurance challenge for many of our students. The new test, well, we would love to say that it was even shorter than what it will be. It is shorter than 8 hours. It will be between 5 and 6 hours. So it is shorter by 2 to 3 hours. The test language and format, you saw a little bit there in some of the screenshots, but the format itself is very cumbersome. It's a lot of split screens. It's a lot of scrolling up and down. The language is highly developed language. We had many students who were asking their teachers, can you tell me what the directions are asking me to do? And per the requirements, no, teachers could not say, this is what the directions are asking you to do, which means that students don't even know from the get-go what the task is. One of the things we're going to look at and are already starting to do in some schools is using the interim and benchmark modules that are provided with the platform to introduce students to that language, to introduce students with opportunities to practice the process of picking apart a question, figuring out what is it that they're asking me to do. And it mirrors real life when you might be presented with a very large problem. You have to break it down into steps. So it's an opportunity for us to teach students that process and practice with that process before taking this particular test. At the middle school level, we are in the process of getting new resources for them that align better. The previous resources that they used were outdated. In order to match the curriculum, they were having to jump around from one chapter to another chapter to sometimes a different grade level. So in following with the model that we've been doing at the elementary school level, we're going to get them teachers' guides of the resources that they're using at the elementary level so that there will be some consistency as they move up 3, 4, 5, all the way up to middle school. And again, using the support of the math coach to help them in terms of what are some instructional strategies that will help students make sense of the math, more than just the traditional, here's a formula, memorize it, and use it. A true understanding of the math. And finally, there is, and we've heard it, and it's a reality, and you've probably heard it from parents and community members, there's an element of potential assessment fatigue. Our students are assessed a lot between standardized tests. We do that, we do NEWA, there's easy CBM, there's progress monitoring, there's tests that teachers create, there's the QSI, there's foundations. There's a lot of assessment that students are experiencing. So starting this summer, we'll be doing a full assessment review to figure out what are we assessing, when are we assessing it, why are we assessing it, how are we assessing it, and are there ways to streamline that to make it easier for teachers and students so they're not getting bogged down with assessment after assessment after assessment. And of course, there are some things that we have to assess. We have to do the state testing. But what else are we doing, and how can we make it easier for teachers and students, and make it, really get back to the instruction that's so important. It's not all doom and gloom. There are positives. Again, grades 3, 4, and 5 all had increases in proficiency in math from the previous year. Again, it's mirroring that work that our math coach has been doing. We had 2 elementary schools last year with significant levels of proficiency. We had one school that had 100% of its 3rd graders proficient or above, and another school 80% proficient or above. So those are, we have some very strong teachers and students and programs. And this is one snapshot. Smarter Balanced and what will become New Hampshire SAS is one snapshot. We have a lot of other data, both in terms of assessment data, but what our students just performed for us is another snapshot of what our students are doing and what they're learning and what they're taking away. In terms of district assessments, our NEWA data shows better levels of proficiency than you'll see with Smarter Balanced. Our QSI results, our 1st graders last year had 86% proficient or above. Our 2nd graders were 96% proficient or above. So there are other ways to measure a student and to measure a person, and it's not always one test or one way to assess. So digging in briefly to the NEWA results, these are our reading scores. Now this is from this current fall, so please note that if you're looking at the Smarter Balanced assessment, those 3rd graders would be depicted under 4th grade this year because they took the test now as 4th graders in the fall. Excuse me. In ELA, or in reading more specifically, all grades had more than 50% proficient or above. Grade 3 was exactly at 50%. So these show a different, slightly different picture than the Smarter Balanced assessment results. And again, a more detailed breakdown is available on the handout. Additionally, as usual, our district NEWA scores in blue, which is the top line, are consistently higher than the national norms. And in math, NEWA, grades 1, 2, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 10 have close to 50% or more than 50% proficiency or above in math. So again, a different picture, a different assessment is showing that, showing a slightly different view and a more positive view. And this is an assessment that students are used to. They've been taking it for 10 or more, well, far more than 10 years. So it's a format that they're used to. It's less clunky, and that could very well play into the district Smarter Balanced assessment results. Again, at or above the national norms as well for our district scores in math. We continue to provide a variety of math and reading interventions and resources and supports from elementary all the way through high school. And as important as it is to look at intervention, it also behooves us to go back and look at what we're providing in the classroom as Tier 1 instruction as well. What are we doing for assessment? What are we doing for instruction? So it's important to cycle back there as well. What are we doing for all students, not just those who need the extra support? Looking ahead, again, looking to use those interim and benchmark assessments to provide students with relevant practice. It's not something that we want to just add on to teachers' plates or add on to students, but if these are relevant assessments that actually tie to our curriculum, it's an opportunity for teachers to actually give these assessments, provide students practice with the platform, while also giving teachers data that they can actually use to inform their instruction. Again, looking at an assessment review this summer, and then professional development and time to work on developing authentic assessments, developing good instructional practices. Looking at our data use. Is it just collecting, but not using? Where can we streamline? And continued coaching and professional development from our math coach, or with our math coach. And the feedback has been very positive from those teachers. And just to leave you, I wanted to give you just a quick peek at the new science assessment. It's different than in the past. The new science assessment is all depth of knowledge level 3 and 4 questions. There will be no lower level questions on it. And on the one hand, they're trying to simulate real life science by making it all about the process. It's not so much about, can you tell me what give me a definition of photosynthesis, but can you actually do a little experiment on photosynthesis and use the data to make a conclusion? That's real world science. On the other hand, the fact that it's all done online is not real science. Real science can be messy. So here's a quick peek. Hopefully I'm connected. So grade 5 is the earliest that students will take the science portion of the test, so I'll grab its grade 5 version. Let's do waves. So again, imagine a 5th grader. This is what they see. I'd love for you all to do it yourself, but we don't have that kind of time, and I'm sure you're glad that we don't. But again, it's all going to be a phenomena-based question on the left, and it's going to give you some sort of a task. Here's a phenomenon, here's an event, here's an issue, here's a chart to read, or in this case, it's a short animated video, and then here's your task. Develop a model to show the cause of the boat's motion. And here on the right, you can see, and I'll just streamline it here, you can see that students will actually get to do these simulations online, which is different than in the past, where they get to choose the size, they're choosing their variables, and they get to start it, and they get to watch what happens when they've adjusted these variables. In this case, it's about waves. And then below, it's collected the data for them. And they'll do these various trials. They'll change their variables, and then as they've done that, as they change their variables, as they conduct their experiments or simulations and generate data, they'll have this data that they then, when they scroll further down, complete tables, make conclusions, support their conclusions based on their tables. Or based on their data. But it is a lot. It's I've been talking to teachers across the district because this is different than what they've seen before, and it can be very overwhelming the first time that they look at something like this with the drop downs and the data tables and the trash. You can get rid of data. So it'll be interesting to see how our students do, and then exciting to see how we move forward with that. Questions? Really, none?
A lot of information.
It is.
You say math coach, there's one math coach
Yes.
for the entire district.
Yes, and we've been doing one grade level at a time. This year we moved up to 2 grade levels at a time. She had more availability during the day, and we found especially with smaller schools that had only one 5th grade teacher or one 6th grade teacher, it was nice to have someone to bounce ideas off of if 2 teachers were going through it at the same time. Additionally, that initial class that was always getting the, grade 1 teachers were getting it with grade 1 students, and when grade 2 students went up to grade 2, their grade 2 teachers were getting the math coaching. It's a learning year for the teachers as well, and those students are muddling through it with those teachers. So now we're pushing it out by our current 5th graders. When they get to 6th grade, those teachers will be in their 2nd year without having to muddle through it a 1st year. So positive feedback. Carolyn is she's our math coach. She's very good with teachers. She's very good with students, and she just has a way. She has a way. She has a way with math and with people that just makes it make sense.
Is this typical throughout the state? In New Hampshire, they have a math coach for each?
Not necessarily.
No.
More and more, I think you see, we have reading specialists in every building. You'll see more and more math supports in place. But we're very fortunate to be able, given the size of our district, we're fortunate to have Carolyn and to make it work with her schedule and ours.
Katie, I don't really have a question, but I have a comment. I think the most interesting slide in that presentation is the cohort groups, because if you look back at the cohort groups, you can see there's no pattern. Each year the cohort groups are different. That's the one. So you would think that what we would want to see for each grade level is a positive trend, but there's no trend at all. It's up, it's down, that makes me wonder about the meaning of the test. And then if you contrast that to the SAT scores that kids, the way kids perform in grade 11, which is so different from that, it's just really a conundrum to try to figure out what that really means. So.
And again, this could have been an abnormal year, but we won't know because our baseline changes with the new test. Starting over next year. Yeah. The way the world.
For reading recovery, we managed to get a coach in every building. Why don't we do that for math?
That's on my wish list. And you're not the first person to recommend it. I think it would be ideal. I know that there are many factors in play in terms of funding and such, but it would be ideal. I'm not the money person.
Katie, I think this actually does show you something about the same results, though, because if you look at the 2015, 16, 17 on the left side, it's the same trend as 15, 16, 17 on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
The spikes.
Yes.
Both the blue is the same kind of level and then downward trend. So each one, except for the yellow down the bottom, which is very odd. But the other three are kind of similar trends, which is.
And what's interesting, especially to me, is that 2015 was the first year of Smarter Balance, so it's your first data point there. And typically, your first year, you would see your lowest scores. It's your implementation dip, and instead, it was some of our highest scores. And then, we made it too easy. Let's change, make it a little tougher. And then it was too hard. Let's try to readjust. I would hate to think that they were doing it quite that blatantly, but they did adjust. They did make adjustments to the scoring formula, and so what other changes were made while the plane was flying?
Are students tested in the same way as they are on these tests? So that if a teacher is doing science Are they getting something on their computer with drop downs and all that, so they have some experience with that?
The NEWA assessment is in terms of the format, pretty much the same. It's a computer assessment, it's computer adaptive. It has many of the same features, although not all of the same features. Smarter Balanced has practice tests that I think all of our library media specialists do with the students. But they're not going to be exposed to every single type of question that they're going to see.
So it's not part of the curriculum?
It's not part of
the
the
tested in those ways?
No, we've never taught to the test. You might have teachers, you'll see more and more teachers.
Teaching to the test with certain answers to practice. I'm talking about the method, the presentation, so that they're familiar with the presentation.
They get it in spurts, but not consistently and not at every grade level.
Well, but I think to her point though, we utilize technology on many different fronts. The kids do practice, they are encouraged to do IXL, different applications. So I feel that our kids are exposed to 21st century test taking at a very young age. Whether, that's, I guess, how I would look at it also, because, yes, the formats and different tables, but our kids are, our kids have smart books. Our kids are definitely taught 21st century technology skills. Even for high schooling, for testing, for homework, they log onto blogs. Their expectation for technology, I feel, even with the teachers, it is very high. So for me, I guess I would agree that the detriment with the technology taking of that to me is not the problem. I think it could be the format of the test, but the utilization of the technology for the test, no.
And it's hard, it would be very hard for a teacher to replicate that particular style. We have teachers who use Google Forms or different type, Kahoots and various other technologies, but it's very, unless you have a developer's background to be able to get that, it would be very difficult for a teacher to replicate. Now they could give students the interim or the benchmark modules, which will expose them to that and do align to the curriculum, and that's what we've been, encouraging teachers to do. So it's not one more thing. It's instead of giving them the test that you created on pencil and paper, use this one that does align and also exposes them to that. But it's a process, and that's a lot for any. They might be skilled in a third grader or a fifth grader. Any student might be skilled in the pieces, but there's just a lot there to digest on the screen, and that's just one question. When they're doing it, when there's 8 questions and they each have 4 or 5 parts, it can be tiring. Dr. Jim, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, you're talking about, in a certain sense, one of the tests was dexterity. And knowing for a fact that, yes, the kids are learning on tablets and they're doing a lot of that. This is not a tablet test. This is a mouse test, right?
You don't take this on tablets.
No, they do it with a mouse. So when they're doing drag and drop, if you have a third grader, I would suspect that after the third hour, the proficiency of the dexterity is going to go in the tank. How can that be a valid test if you're not taking that into account? It doesn't make any sense. Just operator fatigue is always a big issue. We talk about in the workplace, office fatigue, and how the error incidence increases dramatically as the length of the day goes on. It appeared to me that with 8 hours straight of testing, these kids are getting burned.
Well, and I will clarify, they don't sit down for 8 hours at a time. We do work to space it out over 2 to 3 weeks. But, when you sit down for one test, you're sitting down for at least 2 hours, and the test isn't timed, so they can go longer. And so you're sitting down for at least 2 hours, maybe 3, just to do the ELA section. And you might do the math section the next week, but you're right, that's even 2 hours is a long time. And you start to wonder, are we assessing the content or their ability to endure, all the different pieces?
One of your slides shows either proficient or non-proficient. we used to have a scale that showed about 4 different levels,
Yes.
because as a school board member, proficient, non-proficient, doesn't tell me enough. I need more data.
So did you get a handout?
I did, but I haven't had a chance to look at it
Okay.
yet.
When you get a chance to look at it, it does break it down into the 4 levels for both math and ELA in Smarter Balance, and math and reading in the NEWA math assessment. So you can see specifically how many students were at level 1 versus level 4 versus level 3 versus level 2. But yes, it gives you a lot more good detail, but it's a lot, there was enough information here. I was trying to not overdo it.
We're good, thank you, Dean. Looks like Steve isn't here.
Oh, I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, you forgot us.
We'll put him on next time.
Okay.
He's going to do just an update on community education,
Okay.
which is what the agenda says, of course.
There are things to come.
Proposed board meeting schedule is the next item, I believe, and we need to look at that very first meeting. There may be other things that you want to look at as well, but I know the very first meeting is a conflict already, so.
That's right. Is that right? Can't do Brookfield in August?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Well, not August 6th, because August 6th and 7th, we have our administrative retreat.
Okay.
And so it's hard to find a time when 18 people can get together during the summer.
Yeah.
So we could do a Wednesday or a Thursday if that worked for the board.
I mean, I have,
Of that week?
We just,
would you
Just
do it
do-
that week, later in that week?
That's what I was thinking, maybe the 8th or the 9th. Would
If
that work for
your
everybody?
retreat is what, Monday and Tuesday?
It's 6 and 7.
So you probably don't want to do it Wednesday, right after the retreat. I mean, it's up to you.
Thursday would probably be better.
is
Thursday.
there a reason we can't do it the following Monday? Or?
I think I'm not here.
Okay.
So Thursday the 9th, maybe?
That would be perfect, if that works for
Is that-
everybody.
I won't be here.
I'm going to.
Yeah, Monday.
Whatever works for you.
Thursday's the 9th.
The 9th?
Ernie, they don't have meetings on that night, do they?
Does that work?
Thursday nights?
I'll coordinate with them and let you know if there's a problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Already engaged in action.
Thanks, everyone.
When's voting? It's been March 12th.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay. And we are rotating when we do the budget hearings, which is good. Every year we're trying to rotate to a different school, so that's good, that's good. The rest of it looks fine to me.
I'll make a motion to approve it with the amendment of August 9th. Pending.
Yeah, pending
Approval.
of
Change.
Okay. Okay, moved and seconded to approve the budget, the board meeting schedule for 2018-2019 with the change of August 6th to August 9th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
And we are already at end-of-year events. And you'll see that the usual chart with all the end-of-the-year events is in your packet. So if you would just sign up for what you plan on attending and get that to Linda. And of course, there are so many events. We know that you can't attend all of them. It's just too many things going on at that time of year. But if you can get to something, that's great. If you can get to multiple things, that's even better. And most of you do get to multiple things, I know.
And elementary will come out as you start. Okay.
And I'll do this online, like last year.
Okay, yeah.
I'll do that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And next is school board ethics. You should have a copy of the school board member ethics in your packet. So we just need to, I know this is something that you've all seen before because you're all experienced board members. So we just need a signature.
You want to start?
You want to pass that one around and we'll...
You might want to see if you can get a copy.
And while that's going around, should we
Sure.
do field trips?
Yep.
Okay. All right, our first field trip is theater, Bow High School, and it's the Theater Festival, which Scott always gets very excited about. It is overnight, and it has 19 female students and 13 male students, 6 chaperones, and it has a mix of male and female chaperones.
Make a motion to approve the 319 high school trip to Bow High School.
Second.
Great, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye.
Great. The next one is Kingswood Regional High School Youth and Government, and this is in Concord, New Hampshire, and April 6th and 7th, another overnight. And you'll see here that it has persons in charge is Mike Abraham and Ken Joy, and those two names are also down as chaperones. But Katie Meserve is going to be joining in order to have a female chaperone with that group. So we will actually have 3 chaperones for 16 students, and one of them being female.
Make a motion to approve the April 6th youth and government trip to Concord.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is the Lakes Region Technology Center field trip. And this is part of what they do each year. It's a competition. And it is in Atlanta, which is pretty exciting. It would be a great place for the kids to see. 7 male students and 4 female students. And we have Patricia Macy and John Stark and Mark Montrose.
Make a motion to approve the 420 DECA trip to Atlanta, Georgia.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye.
And the next one is, again, Lakes Region Technology Center, Health Occupations, and this is Dallas, Texas. And this is Cheryl Kravitsky, and along with Cheryl, Rose Rumery will be attending, and she's the person that assists Cheryl at the high school. We have all female students going to that, so 11 female students.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 25th HOSA trip to Dallas, Texas.
Second.
This is actually after school ends. No conflict. No conflict there with,
No, Cheryl's willing to do it.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Okay, and the next one is Ossipee Central School, and again, a trip that often happens, and it's Camp Mero Vista. And it will be 22 students, well, 22 male and 15 female, 6 chaperones, and it's basically the school staff that work with those students.
Make a motion to approve the May 5th trip to Camp Mero Vista.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
So there's just,
You have your two.
I did add 2 items, but I realized that now you don't have copies of the policies, so we have
Okay.
2 policies that will be for a read next time.
Okay.
But you'll need them in your packets in advance, so we'll get them to you.
Thank you. Under the School Board Association, we had our first meeting last Wednesday, and we had a visit from 3 representatives for the congressional district, congressional members in Congress. The only one that didn't show up was someone from Senator Shaheen's office who couldn't make it at the last minute. They updated us basically on what was happening down in Washington, the conversations around education and what they're concerned about, what they're not concerned about. Obviously, there's a lot of concern about some of the directions the Department of Education is taking at this point in time. One of the things that they're pushing for, which they don't feel very hopeful about, is full funding for special education, which it's been out there forever, but they're trying to promote the fact that the government does have to step up to the plate if they're going to do some of this stuff. They have to start, honoring their commitment. So. They're hopeful that they can get some things passed, but, as Washington is, there's not a lot of progress on a lot of fronts down there. So, but it was good to hear them. Each one of the members of Congress are working hard in their individual areas of expertise that they're moving in, some education-wise, some not. But it's nice to have them come and talk to us and at least bring back a perspective of what's happening down in Washington and what the congressmen and the senators are trying to work on. So, and our next meeting isn't until May, so we'll update you then.
Thank you, Jack.
Can I ask Jack a quick question?
Sure.
In trying to put together how we're doing compared to the state and the nation, is the state of New Hampshire still not keeping up the data like they used to? This is kind of a question to Kathy. We have our kids being tested. Does the state have the figures so we can balance them or see how we're doing against the state versus the nation? Remember there was a period when they stopped doing it? Are they still giving us all the data we need?
They stopped doing that when we joined the Smarter Balance Consortium because across the state you could choose the park assessment, SBAC assessment, or you could get a waiver to do your own assessment like we are in the state of New Hampshire. And so they no longer could do national.
Okay, so are you satisfied with the data we're getting?
Satisfied? I'd like it to look different.
Because Jack can carry this message
Sure.
Through the School Board Association, asking these questions. If
Yeah, I think, you know, any time there's any concerns or whatever, or any questions that you may have, you know, Barrett is really good about bringing things to the legislature, bringing stuff to the Department of Education, you know, talking to the other groups, administrators and all that are, it's interesting now, some of the other groups, the Administrators Association, and I'm not sure who else is in the building now.
NHSAA?
I think so.
Yeah.
They're in the same building as the School Board Association now. They've rented space there, so instead of being across town, they're all kind of together in the same place, which is really a nice, you know, so a lot of cooperative effort can happen there. So any of these things, you know, feedback, and we'll get them to Barrett, and he can really start working on some of these things.
I think Katie had the 13 states that took SBAC as part of the comparison, but it does give us more limited information just to have a snapshot of 13 versus 50. So I think right now the testing is really in a state of flux. You know,
Yes,
change, and I'm not sure even in the test construction, I have a lot of confidence. But
That's one of the things that, you know, we keep changing things and changing things to a point where you don't have a good picture of how our students are doing.
And I think
Unless you
that was-
cherry pick which test you want to look at.
That was really obvious, I think, in Katie's presentation, you know, so we've had Smarter Balance for 3 years, and okay, that's gone, so let's replace it with something else, and, you know, we keep going through that same process, and how do you ever collect enough data to say, how are we really doing? You know, maybe the only test that seems to be consistent is the SATs, when you finally get to that point, if you can take SAT, but other than that, every couple of years you're changing tests, so you're looking at some data, gee, you did really well last year, and now you didn't go, so now it's a new test. How do you ever keep up with that? Yeah. And that's really a challenge.
And really what we want teachers to be focused on is instruction.
Right, exactly. Before I go on to my report, the other thing with the School Board Association, and it's happening next week or the week after, I believe, or a couple of weeks, they have new school board training that they do, which is a big focal point, so new board members can go and go through the process. They also have a one that actually Jack and I sat in one time. It was a superintendent and board chair forum, which was interesting. I wish we could do it again this year, but we're not going to be around to do it. And that forum, the first year they did it, we had no idea what we were getting into. And we sat there and we didn't know if we were going to be presenting or whatever, and it was about an hour that they gave us, and an hour and a half later, just the questions back and forth on relationships between board members, chairs, the superintendent, how that all worked. Really was very interesting, so they've expanded it, and it's a regular program now every single year. And they also do budget workshops, they do negotiation workshops, they do all these different workshops as part of what, you know, the membership can take advantage of. So it's a pretty good organization. I think they do a nice job. Okay. Under Chairman's report, some letters of sympathy that went out. Julianne, sorry for losing your brother. The family of Sally Stewart, our teacher in the middle school who passed away very suddenly. And sympathy for Jessica and Sean Thibodeau, maintenance staff, on the passing of her father. So that's all I have. We'll go on to committee reports, academic affairs. Stacy?
We met earlier this evening. We had a preview of Katie's assessment presentation she gave tonight. We'll be back next month with first reads on dual enrollment and homework policy. That's been a while in the making, and we've got something to bring forward, and we may have something on field trips.
Excellent. Building and maintenance, Ernie.
We had a meeting on March 26th. Some of the improvements that we have done in this past year so far is and I've mentioned this previously, the bus barn has a new overhead door and a lift, which is a big help in the bus barn. The Crescent Lake and Carpenter School have door hardware security upgrades completed. We have worked on the water quality upgrade at Tuftonboro Central School. The fire alarm communications, they used to go to the town. They no longer go to the town. That was changed over at Crescent Lake. We completed roof repair in New Durham. And we have scheduled carpet replacement at Ossipee Central School and also the SAU building before the end of the year. And last, the committee decided to move forward with shingling areas of the roof at Effingham Elementary School and Crescent Lake. You wonder if they really need to get it done, but when people walk in the office carrying a piece of the roof that the wind blew off, you know it's time to get it done. And so we're going to try to get that done this summer. Also in the 2018 budget, we're looking to upgrade the oil pump system at the Ossipee Central School. It's a 1964 system, and it runs constantly 24/7. And we're going to replace it with something that only runs when we need it to run, and it'll save us a lot of electricity. And I would certainly say we got our money out of that system. We're working with the administration and the committee in developing a long-range plan for our roofs. We've got about 375,000 square feet of roof in the district. The amount we're talking about working on this summer is less than 5%. So this will be an ongoing issue which we will keep you posted on. We're in pretty good shape except these two areas where we really have to do them because, like I said, the shingles are literally being blown off the roof. Tim or Julianne, you've got anything to add?
Yeah, you covered it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Under Human Resources, I don't, nothing tonight. And under financing, just a huge thank you again to the voters of the district for their tremendous support at the polls for our budget and the contracts and the field warrant as well as the maintenance warrant article. We're very, very fortunate to have the support we have across this district, and it's really all the towns for the most part have been extremely supportive, so thank you for that. We will have, I will ask once we have committee assignments, that maybe the committees can meet really quickly before the next board meeting, before we actually get, call to order and decide who's going to be chair of each one of the committees as we move forward, and then we can get that on the agenda for the meeting after that. All right. Public relations, anything, Julianne?
Nothing.
Okay. Advanced planning, you can see down below, the school recess is 4:23 to 4:27. Employee Appreciation Week is 5/7 to 5/11. Joint board meeting is also on 5/7. That's the meeting between, with our board, Molten Borough, Prospect Mountain, Farmington, and Milton is part of our, Middleton is part of us now. So we'll have that meeting on the 7th of May, and then our regular board meeting following that, and that's at the regular board meeting at the middle school, according to this. Yes.
Is it in the middle school this time?
Is it in the middle school?
It'll be in the middle school, then we'll walk over to LRTC.
Or LRTC first?
Just the reverse, you're
right.
right.
LRTC first, and then we'll walk over to the
Just
middle
the
school. Yeah,
opposite.
right. Yeah, we'll eat first. Yeah.
Just want to make sure I'm
Okay, public input. Anyone like to make any comments?
Legislative update?
Legislative update, not tonight because there's just nothing's finalized in Concord either. If anything ever gets finalized down there, we'll let you know.
The big issues are still SB 193. Many of you may have seen the press releases on that this past week. And then the cooperative school district, there's still a couple of bills out there on cooperative school districts, and those are the ones that I'm watching most. And you can all go on Legiscan if you want to get the most current information about them.
Okay, public input, anybody else? Okay, hearing none, closing comments by board members. Start over here. Bridget.
Thank you, Abby. I love listening to your report because you have everything. And the Jeopardy, the kids were just great. I think it was Cooper.
Yeah,
Cooper was the spokesperson who was great. And Katie, thank you. She's not here anymore, but she was very thorough and informative. I have none.
Okay.
Thank you, Principal Fournier, for letting us come to your school and enjoy the kids because they're the best, and that was fun. I loved that. And thank you to Katie too for all the hard work.
Stacey?
I agree, and thank you to the voters too for supporting our budget in our schools.
The kids were great. I didn't think you were going to be able to top square dancing from last night. It was just as much fun. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. The board meetings are quite entertaining. There was a gentleman that was in the audience at our last meeting, the gentleman that presented the school bus stuff, and I caught up with him, I don't know, 2 or 3 days later, and he had said that he had never been to a board meeting where they have fun. So it was great to have fun again.
Thanks. Dr. Jim?
Well, all I'd like to say is Andrew did make us dance, and that was very nice.
Yes.
And thank the voters for supporting us. I mean, it's unfathomable that they do it every single time they come forward and say, you know, we're ready to get a good quality product. That's really nice.
Great.
Right. Peter, I thank you for your question about legislative updates, but I'm a data junkie and I'm always looking for information. So I'm going to call on Kathy, if I may, Mr. Chairman, to talk about homeschooling. Because I used to know how many students in the district were homeschooled, and we tracked them and we knew what was going on. Kathy, would you like to make a comment about that?
Well, I think probably between Heather and I, we can tell you a little bit about that, because Heather is the homeschool coordinator for the district. But really, there are no requirements for homeschoolers any longer. So while they're supposed to do some testing, we are not privy to the results. So that's I don't know if that gets done or not done. We don't know really much of anything. They simply submit a letter, and that's it. If they submit a letter, then they're entitled to homeschool. And I'll tell you, lots of parents do a great job homeschooling, but there are many students that I really worry about, because I know that when they're not here, they're really not getting what they need. And so, when I see one of those students and I know they're not going to be coming back to school, it really troubles me. I think we've all heard about this situation in California with those children that were homeschooled, and believe me, I'm not saying that that's the norm, but I worry about things like that. So, Heather, I don't know.
That was my concern. Heather?
Well, we could devote a whole meeting to it.
Okay.
And they also, families are not required to report to the local school district. They can report to other agencies that are approved, so the tracking of it is extremely difficult. 99% of the families that homeschool with us that we're aware of do a wonderful job for lots of different reasons. But the accountability piece, 2 years ago, they stopped needing to send us their evaluation results, as Kathy mentioned, of portfolios. So once they leave our district, we really have very little knowledge or control over their education. And so a number we wouldn't even be able to, we would be able to base it on the last time we were required to collect the data.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question was precisely that. I didn't think the public knows that homeschoolers are no longer accountable to anybody, really. And it's creating a weakness in the system there. And I'll just leave that one at that. All I have to say, Kathy, after I called on you for that, I got to... Certainly.
So if you're homeschooled, you're not accountable to anybody at all?
By law, you are supposed assessed by a certified teacher or take a standardized assessment, but there's no one checking on that. You're trusting that the family that has selected to homeschool is following through with the law.
So the state doesn't check that, they don't have to submit to the state?
That's correct,
So there's no requirements for homeschooling whatsoever?
other than what's written in the law.
And if you don't follow it,
Still lost, I'm not sure what
Yeah,
you're saying.
so if you were a parent who chose to homeschool, you would be given from our district a letter accepting a letter of intent and the law that says that as a parent electing to homeschool, you must maintain a portfolio which contains certain content area prescribed by law, you know, reading, history, math. And so that's what the parent is accountable to by law, but there is no mechanism anymore for the district to follow up to ensure that that's happening.
But somebody in the state or somewhere along the way they have to report to them.
Yeah.
Well, who monitors, who patrols the law then? You said it's by law they have to do this, right? So they have to report to somebody.
Sure, the only way that we would know and be able to enforce that is if the parent elected to bring the child back to the public school, and then we could say, please show your portfolio or the standardized assessment. Other than that, if a family homeschools for all 12 years, we would not.
But the state could say, you've done all you are supposed to do, and they could go right to a college as long as they have credits through the state. Is that what you're saying?
The state doesn't award the credits.
Who set the law up?
The legislature has approved what the homeschool lobbyists have asked for.
So once again, they have to report to somebody. They have to say, because a homeschool kid has every right to go to a college, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so they have to have credits to go to college, right? Just like high school and everything else, they have to have there's an accreditation program.
They might be able to just submit their portfolio or take a test, and if they test well enough, then get into a school. But the best way I can describe it is it operates on an honor system. There's no one really checking up on it. So if a student goes through 12 years of homeschooling, if they have learned what they need to learn, they could still go to college, but it wouldn't be through a credit system. There are other mechanisms in order for students to get into college. Those other students that are not bound for post-secondary education, it's still honor system. So.
Okay, well, I'm so lost right now, believe me. Okay. I understand, but I don't, because I know plenty of kids who have been homeschooled who are very intelligent, like a lot more intelligent than the ones that are coming out of the high school now. So I'm not sure who keeps track of that.
Well, my guess is that their parents are very devoted and are doing a good job at accessing the curriculum and making sure that they have everything they need. There are a number of parents who homeschool their children that are very, very devoted to that and do a great job. So.
Okay, but that still doesn't solve anything. There's no way of tracking anything other than the state or federal guidelines that they had to follow.
No, there's no real accountability.
The school district used to support homeschoolers. If we have a bus trip going down to the Science Museum in Boston, they were welcome to go. If they wanted to participate in sports, we allowed them in to participate in sports. So we had a very good program going, but then all of a sudden, it's no longer, we have no real control over it anymore.
But we do, to make sure everyone is really clear about this, we do, when parents want their students to attend school, it's called dual enrollment, and they're homeschooled for part of the time, and then they come to our schools for part of the time too. And we welcome that. We want everybody here. So.
Well, and that probably can be more of an indication of where they're at.
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I understand that, but I'm sure you're welcome to that, but not everybody's going to do that.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit lost on it.
Yeah.
Feel free to call.
That's okay.
I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
And Kathy, since I put you on the spot, you bailed me out twice tonight, because when I picked that category, I didn't have a clue as to the number of students specifically at Tuftonboro Central School, and all the kids, I think that was a setup question.
I don't know, but I'll tell you, I was very happy that I knew the answer. They
thought the kids did a great job with the Jeopardy. And also, I just wanted to know whether Middleton is included in these assessment results.
No, they would have their own reporting.
Okay.
Different SAU.
Yep.
Thank you.
High school only would incorporate the SATs.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but not these.
Abby?
Thank you, Tuftonboro staff. It's cool to be back. Haven't been here in a while. So, thank you.
Who else wants to say?
Well, I just, I wanted to thank Katie. I thought with what she had to work with, she just did a phenomenal job, and some of those graphs were really illustrative. I thought she did just a terrific job. I also wanted to comment on how well the students did during the high school walkout. It's something that, of course, we were very diligent, making sure that they were safe with police there and everything, but they really were honoring the 17 students from the that were killed, and you could not hear. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. It was very, very moving, I thought. So kudos to the high school students for taking that seriously, doing a great job, and to the people that organized it, students that organized it. Other than that, I'm glad that John Broderick was with us. He's a fabulous speaker. He has a really important story to tell about his son's mental health issues. And right now, with everything happening, I think the more awareness we have about mental health, he talks about the 5 signs and left materials with the students so that people can put that on the refrigerator and recognize those 5 signs. And so I was happy to hear that he was here. And that's all I have. Oh, one more thing. One more thing. I just want to mention, someone mentioned tonight about having fun at board meetings. And I think that that probably is not really very typical, but I think that's just another example of this school board working so well together. Certainly the folks that welcome us into their schools do a good job making us have fun, but it's just a group of people that works hard, collaborates, like the kids mentioned up there.
Teamwork, yeah.
Collaborates, teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just wanted to say that and thank you all.
We're going to give you an opportunity if you have anything.
Just I would say ditto. Thank you very much, Andrea, to you and to the students. That was a lot of fun. And to Abby for always providing such a great snapshot because, again, you're the whole reason we're here. So thank you for always sharing such great information with us. And congratulations on the re-elections and to your new appointments on the board.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, Andrea, it was great. I love to see the kids, and last month they did make me dance, which was out of my comfort zone, but that was okay. This was a little easier for me, I think. But anyway, thank you very much. It's always great to be back home. So, all right, and at this point, I would entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A ;3 paragraph 2 for legal, personnel, or student matters.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Wendy? Kathy?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Yep.
We're in.
Thank you, everyone.